this is Matt from VMP Performance, and on this episode of Project Chucky, we're going to install our WOT Box. You saw last episode we installed our trans brake relays, so now we're going to finish hooking up our WOT Box. This is going to control the launch RPM that the car launches at, so we'll be able to adjust it up or down to work in conjunction with the window switch on the nitrous controller to control the RPM that the car launches at. So let's get started. So a little bit more about this. This is the N2MB WOT Box. Now we've been talking about using it as a launch RPM controller for Project Chucky, but it actually does lots of other things too. It is, of course, a launch control, so it controls the RPM at which you launch at, either in a manual or automatic car, depending on if it's hooked up to the clutch or the brake. Another factor it does is the no-lift shift, which is very popular with the manual guys. It provides an ignition cut that allows you to shift the car without letting off the gas pedal. So basically, when it sees you push the clutch in, it gives you an ignition cut, which allows you to shift the next gear. Also gives you the nice fire out the exhaust that everyone seems to like, and I don't know why. And the third thing it does is it has an add-on, and there's an add-on from N2MB which plugs into the serial port, and it actually also works as a window switch for a nitrous kit. So Chucky already had a Nitrous Express controller, but we could use this as a window switch for the nitrous kit as well. So it does lots of things, and just depending on what you want to do with it. And I believe it also has a programmable input and output for it as well to make it turn on shift lights and other weird things like that versus RPM. If you'd like to pick one of those up, we do carry these in stock at VMP Performance, so just get a hold of us through sales or get on the website, and we'll be happy to get you one. And also, if you need any advice, we can help you get it set up as well. So let's get started. The wiring on this install is going to be a little bit different because Chucky already has a nitrous system installed and also has a Nitrous Express window switch nitrous controller installed already. So this one's going to be a little bit different, but the basic concept stays the same. So the next thing we need to do is figure out a suitable place to mount this. You want to make sure that you can get to the serial port to make any adjustments via the laptop, or there is also a button that will let you make changes on the fly if you need to. We like to put these in the glove box. Chucky doesn't have a glove box, so we're actually going to mount it slightly behind that so we're still easy to get to. And then we're going to run the wiring through the firewall and up underneath the hood. There we are. Thank you. You're a very useful engine. What we're doing is I'm kind of taping off these wires and I'm isolating them from the rest. Project Chucky already has the wires for the accelerator pedal position sensor run into the car. So we don't need to run that back underneath the hood. We can just tap into underneath the dash here. We do need to get a crankshaft position sensor via the yellow wire, so that has to run up to the front. And then the red wire has to go to the power supply to the ignition coils, and then the orange wire has to go to the coils themselves. So we're going to run these three to the front. The blue one is going to get hooked up to the accelerator pedal position sensor underneath the dash here. The green wire is going to get hooked up to our trans brake. We're using the trans brake button as the clutch switch to activate or deactivate the N2MB. So whenever the trans brake button is pushed, it will also activate the N2MB as well as the trans brake relays. So that's going to stay underneath the dash, and then finally the black wire gets grounded right to this crossbar right here behind the dash. So let's get started. This is going to get plugged in. There. I believe it was behind here. So our three wires are run through the firewall. We've made our ground connection right here to the frame behind the dash. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to run, which is normally the clutch wire, but we're going to run that through the center console and up to the trans brake activation wire. So that's going to turn our WOT box on and off, as well as turn on our trans brake. So again, Chucky already has the window switch from Nitrous Express that has the accelerator pedal position sensor tapped into it. So I have just piggybacked onto that for the WOT Box. So the same wire coming from the PCM will feed the window switch as well as the WOT Box. So I've went ahead and done that, and now I'm going to get this connected. All right, so we're back inside, and I'm going to show you a potential issue that you're going to have when running this exact combination like Chucky. Normally, we have our Nitrous Express controller, which just completes the circuit for the nitrous and fuel solenoids. The issue is we have now added the N2MB WOT Box. The Nitrous Express controller gets its RPM signal from the coil. The N2MB box is interrupting that signal in order to limit the RPM and launch. So what this does is this messes with the RPM signal. And what you can do is you run into a situation where this thing doesn't know what the actual RPM is, and it activates the nitrous and fuel solenoids while you're on the two-step. Big fireballs happen when you do that. We don't want that to happen, so we're going to show you how to make this not happen. We're going to add a third relay to the system, which we've already drawn out here for you. So ordinarily, the Nitrous Express controller completes the ground circuit to the nitrous and fuel solenoids. They have their constant power. These are joined together. They go through. When the RPM signal is reached, the controller completes the ground. These are fired. We don't want these getting activated while on the two-step. So we're adding this relay. The trans brake button sends power to activate the trans brake relays. We're also going to add a third relay into this system right here. So we're going to interrupt this wire that goes between the two, and we're going to run them through this relay as such. So what this is going to do is when there is no power applied to the relay, and meaning the trans brake button is not pressed, it's going to send power through this relay uninterrupted, just like it would normally work. The solenoids will work, everything will go great. But when we're on the trans brake, meaning that we have power here, and we don't want this working, it's going to also apply power to this relay. It's going to activate this coil. It's going to remove power from this terminal, and it's going to bring it over to here. We don't have anything hooked up here. So basically, it is breaking the circuit between the nitrous and fuel solenoids and the Nitrous Express controller. So when this happens, it interrupts the signal between the Nitrous Express controller and the nitrous and fuel solenoids, and they will not work. The second that you let go of the trans brake button, it's going to let go of the trans brake. It is also going to let go of this. This is going to switch back over to here, and ground will now travel through this uninterrupted, and the nitrous and fuel solenoids will kick on. So hopefully this explains a little bit more about how both of these systems work together and how you can make an N2MB box and a Nitrous Express window switch work together and not blow the intake off the car. So let's go back out to the shop and see how they're doing out there. So we just ran our 3 wires through here, so we're going to start tapping in over underneath the fuse box here. So again, the red one is going to go to the key-on power supply to the coils. The orange one is going to go to the coils, and the yellow one we're going to tap into the crankshaft position sensor circuit. We'll give you an idea on what pin that is a little bit later on. Our next step is we have to lift up the fuse box to gain access to the wiring underneath it. The power supply to the coils runs from underneath this fuse box and then over to each individual coil. So what the WOT Box does is it interrupts that signal. It gets wired between the two, so when you reach the RPM and it's activated, it kills the power supply to the coils, thus limiting RPM. So we have to get this dug up, access those wires, and get it all hooked up. There we are. So we got the top of the fuse box taken off here. So you're looking for fuse number 40, which is the power supply to the coils, as I said. It's going to be a yellow wire with a green stripe. You're going to dig that out. Make sure you give yourself enough room on either side and cut that, because the WOT Box is going to hook up to that. So we got our two wires connected under the fuse box. We're gonna tuck those back in, put the fuse box back together, and then all we have left is to hook up our yellow wire to the crankshaft position sensor. Okay, so we got our wire isolated. You're looking for pin number 13, which is a yellow wire with a violet tracer. So we're gonna snip that and we're gonna piggyback the yellow wire going to the N2MB box, and that will give us our crank signal, which will give us the RPM signal for the box. All right, so we're all wrapped up under the hood here. We've got the PCM all connected, everything's tucked back in. We're gonna put our cover back on and we're gonna go inside the car and finish up everything inside the car. So now that we're back inside the car, all that we have left is we're gonna take the shifter and the center console back apart and hook up our button. So you're probably wondering why you're seeing this in both videos, but that's because of movie magic and the power of editing. But alas, we are making both videos at the same time. So we've run the green wire from the N2MB box along the center console and back in and hooked it up to our trans brake wire harness that we have here. So what that's going to do is whenever we hit the button, that's going to activate the trans brake relays, but it's also going to activate the two-step to give us a rev limit on the starting line. When you release it, they both let go and off we go. So in the meantime, if you want to get your hands on one of the N2MB WOT boxes, we keep them in stock. Just get a hold of sales, email us, or order online, and we'll be happy to take care of you. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to see future content about Project Chucky and other VMP projects.